Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Before we get started with today's P&A Ad Symposium session, we ask you to join us in celebrating some of the award-winning submissions from the 2021 P&A Foundation Advertising Contest. By sharing these winning entries, we hope to not only honor talent and success, but also add to the ideas and takeaways you are receiving through this week's session. Each year, the Foundation's advertising contest recognizes ad departments from Pennsylvania news companies who are producing outstanding print and digital ads, as well as other revenue-generating campaigns and products. The 2021 contest was judged by members of the New York Press Association. Across the four circulation divisions, over 300 entries were received from 20 news organizations. More than 130 have been recognized with first, second, and honorable mention awards, with certificates and plaques mailed earlier this month. Today, we're going to highlight the winners of 2 of the 14 categories. The first is the wild card category, which includes any print and digital ads that don't fit into other traditional categories. So this could be best homepage takeover ad, animated ads, virtual and augmented reality. The entries are judged on originality and effectiveness. And the second category that we're going to take a look at is the best native advertising category. Awards are given to the best native advertising, branded content, or sponsored content on a company's platform. Form, function, and integration are judged, as well as creativity and effectiveness. Congratulations to these award recipients, and to all of our 2021 winners. We invite you to view a compilation of all winning entries on the P&A website at www.pnanewsmedia.org. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Matt Miller. I am the Chief Revenue Officer with Trib Total Media. So glad that you could join us here this afternoon. I see a lot of smiling faces that I know here. So it's good to have our friends in Pennsylvania back together again. So thanks for attending today's P&A Advertising Symposium. We are joined by the lead team of experts from the Branded Content Project. For those who are not familiar, the Branded Content Project was designed through a strategic partnership with the Local Media Association, the Local Media Consortium, and the Facebook Journalism Project to help facilitate additional growth, engagement, and success for many publishers of all shapes and sizes. The focus is branded content, which uses the strength of storytelling to provide a valuable benefit to advertisers while increasing audience engagement and revenue for local media publishers. This powerful revenue stream has shown to be a success for many media organizations. Presenting today will be Julia Campbell, the General Manager at the Branded Content Project. Julia, if you want to give a little wave.
Hello, hello. Good to be here. Thanks so much, guys.
Also, Peter Lamb, the owner of Lamb Consulting. Peter will also probably torture all of us because he's probably in some exotic location like Miami or the Bahamas or something, and he always likes to rub that in. So, Peter, you want to give a little wave?
Only 86 degrees today. Sorry about that.
There you go. There you go. I knew it was coming. We needed to get that out of the way quick.
Thank you, Matt.
And then also Jared Mervis, the CRO of the Distributed Media Lab. Jared, I see you there. Little wave.
Yes.
So as we begin, a few housekeeping notes. The session will be recorded and available to our attendees. The P&A will send a follow-up email to everyone who registered on, this coming Monday. The follow-up email will include the recording and any available associated materials. If you have any questions during the session, please don't hesitate to use the chat feature and address them to the organizer. We'll be sharing those with our speakers. And to improve the attendee experience, we're asking everyone to stay muted throughout the training. And just as we lead into our session here today, I'd just like to mention that we are currently working with the Branded Content Project at Trib Total Media. Personally, I went through their training that they provide and got my certificate. I'm an official graduate of the Branded Content Project, and we have sold to date, we have sold 2 of their different packages. One is active aging. The other one, I'm just looking on our website here, the other one is called Home Sweet Home. So one of those packages we sold for roughly $12,000. The other package it's kind of a tiered thing where the client can kind of do different things each month, but on the low end it'll be $12,000 for the year. On the high end it could be as much as $24,000. So it was a very easy, like they kind of lay everything out for you, like it's like super easy to take to market. So anyway, we've had some success with it. I hope you guys find it to be useful and have similar success. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Julia.
Oh, appreciate the fabulous intro, and couldn't hope for a better introduction when you've already been able to kind of utilize some of the tools we're going to talk to you guys about today. So we are very excited to be here, and as everyone already kind of mentioned a little bit, the Branded Content Project is a strategic partnership between the Local Media Association, Local Media Consortium, with funding coming from the Facebook Journalism Project. This was really created, funded, and supported by these three in order to do a few things. So we're here to best help the local media industry really facilitate and create long-term, high-margin, high-impact, sustainable revenue for all of you. We're here to build content opportunities for all local media organizations. It doesn't matter the shape or size. We want to make sure that we are here to help you guys at every step of the way and find new revenue, new audiences through branded content. And they mentioned that the folks that are here today, Jared, Peter, and I don't know how everybody do like a quick introduction just so you guys kind of know our own background. Jared, why don't you get started and give them your background first?
Sure. Hey guys, excited to be on the call with you today. My name is Jared Mervies. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Distributed Media Lab. We are the technology and fulfillment partner of the Branded Content Project. Julie and I have been collaborating on this really exciting initiative for over a year now and seen such great success from local media outlets of all sizes and formats. So excited to be on the call with you. Quick background on myself. I've spent the last 15 years driving digital advertising revenue and audience growth across traditional media companies. I've been on the broadcast side where I led digital advertising at Tegna and our 46 TV stations there. Most recently, I was Chief Digital Officer at the Dallas Morning News and led not only our owned and operated audience, but also our 80-person marketing services agency. So again, excited to be here and look forward to collaborating with you all.
All right, Mr. Lamb, a little bit of background on you, please.
I have a very simple role in this project, ladies and gentlemen. My job is to give Matt Miller a really hard time, and I'm the one that gave him a B+ in his branded certificate. Good to meet you all. I will have some fun with you today and tomorrow.
Right.
I knew that was coming.
You knew it was coming, yeah. And I'm Julie Campbell. My background is actually on the content side of the business. So I grew up on the TV side, launching and growing content and production initiatives. Got into the, as Peter would say, the dark side of the business, the sales side, and really kind of creating opportunities to mix the world of content and sales together. So I'm happy to be here with you guys, and we're happy to really explain a little bit about how this works. We're excited to talk with all of you. We'll make sure we leave some room for questions as well as we roll through a lot of information. So one thing I know that everyone on this call is going to notice right away as we start to talk about these things, you're going to think, we've done these things before. None of this necessarily sounds like a brand new idea, and you are absolutely correct. There are no new ideas. What we've done here is we've taken a lot of the old ideas and kind of put them in a little mental kaleidoscope there. What we've done is shake out all the good things that work. We've taken best practices. The Branded Content Project is actually in our third year. We've been learning and studying from media companies from all across the industry, from the smallest of the digital pure plays to the largest broadcast groups. We've been watching and learning what works in order to help provide you guys with some solutions. So we've taken the best things that maybe you guys have done before, you've seen some terms before, you've heard about some of these things before, and the reason that we're kind of taking these things and shaking them up is that these are effective ideas. Branded content, sponsored content, advertorial, pay-to-play segments, these are all old terms, and they're very effective. Andy Griffith even had a sponsor segment at the end of every single episode of the Andy Griffith Show. There was a small added content segment. They talked about Post Cereal. They talked about Sanka Coffee. They covered all the things that the advertiser needed to do in an entertaining, engaging, and informing way. So we're taking all those great ideas that we've been using over the last 100 years and mixing them up a little bit and really be able to show you guys a little bit what's effective and what can really work for your advertisers and your audiences. So let's talk a minute about definition, because we know that these terms are very confusing. We've heard a lot of them before. So how we define branded content is, so we define it as any sales or marketing initiative that uses content to engage the user and is paid for by a client who participates as part of that content. They help supply the content, or maybe they just sponsor the content that's distributed across any platform. Really confusing, I know, because there's a lot of words here that we hear often, and they all seem like they jumble together. So let's talk about the three types of branded content and see if we can kind of make some sense of some of these terms. So three types of branded content: sponsored content, custom content, and advertiser content. So sponsored content. So that's editorial produced content that's already created and available for sponsorship purposes. So think about any sort of sports initiative you might have, or maybe there's a health series that you guys are sponsoring. That sponsor is kind of aligned with that content, but not contributing to it. And the content is not about that advertiser. Custom is really kind of almost in the middle here. So that's content that's created in conjunction with an advertiser. It's lightly featured as an advertiser when it was the product. So think about maybe a ski resort that might be the background to a video segment that you're doing, or maybe it's just a couple links that are in your native article or your advertorial that is about that content, but it's not necessarily specifically about the advertiser. It's built for the audience, but maybe there is a light touch of advertising information in that article, and then advertiser content. So that's content showcasing an advertiser's brand, product, or service that are of interest to the publisher's audience. So that one's a little bit closer to the editorial or advertorial side. So something where really the advertiser is driving the message of that content, really providing a lot more assistance and a lot more messaging in that content you're providing. So those are the three buckets of content we always talk about. Let's talk a little bit about advertiser opportunity and honestly, monetary opportunity for all of you. So last fall, about October, we went into a research study with Burrell and Associates. We discovered that the content marketing opportunity in 2020 is actually a $63 billion market. This interesting part about that number is during COVID, those numbers held a little bit more steady. So they were certainly not taking the same dive that a lot of advertising methods took during COVID. So we're seeing a lot of opportunity. And the reason we're seeing opportunity now is that lower left corner number there. 56% of small businesses said content marketing will become more of a priority this year. This is the year that content marketing is going to explode. A lot of the reason is that we realized in the last year that advertisers need to communicate in a different form. They have longer form messages. They have more information to provide, a little bit more of a unique situation that we've seen in the last year. And so this is why this year is going to become really the year that content marketing explodes for all of you and all your advertisers. And how comes you guys are situated to be in the best position there is that lower right number there. 50% of higher, there's a 50% higher brand lift for marketers that distribute their branded content with a publisher rather than those who publish on their own. They need you to distribute. So not only do they need you to create the content, but they also need you to distribute the content. They need to partner with you to make sure that it's effective. This is why Burrell has really recommended that local media companies are uniquely positioned to be able to take your expertise in storytelling and mastery of media distribution. So you guys have a strategic competitive advantage right now over any kind of boutique content shops or any sort of agency in your town. You guys are positioned to really be able to capitalize on this incredible opportunity and really be able to provide some great services for your advertisers. All right, Mr. Lamb, it's time for us to get to work. What do we need to do next?
Well, you know, every time you see that slide that says, let's get to work, that means I'm probably going to give you homework. And if Matt and Matt allow, we might even give you a test at the end of the hour or so. All right. I strongly suggest you either take out a piece of paper, take out a pencil, take out a computer if you're working on another computer, multitasking, and start taking some notes right now. The process now is, you know this opportunity, there's a lot of money. How do we get it done? Here we go. Boom. Hey, you know what? Why should I use you? That's what your customers go. Why should I talk to you? Why should I use branded content? Ladies and gentlemen, you heard Julie say she comes from the dark side of the business. You know, for those of you who know me, I'm purely in the revenue side of the business. The beauty of branded content is we get the two parts of our business that are the best, the editorial side and the advertising side, and we work together. For those of you who've been around as long as I have, we know that we rarely talk to each other. We're in different sides. We speak different languages. Now we have the opportunity and initiative where those two groups work together and the outcome is powerful. It is the best kept secret of branded content. You have editorial, church, advertising working together. Remember that one. There may be a test there. TLC. It is not tender loving care. This is not the Pennsylvania sex seminar on a Monday afternoon sponsored by Matt and Matt. TLC stands for Think Like the Customer. Okay? Think like, it's so easy for us to think internally, focus inside. Let me give you a great example. If we had some time, I'd ask you this question. Who do you believe is the best company in the world? You'd have different answers. You'd say Google, you'd say Apple. Some of you might say Amazon. Let me give you the Amazon philosophy. We start with the customer and move backwards. We say that slowly. We start with the customer and move backwards. So if you're taking notes, ask yourself, In the past 12 months, how does my company fall that grade? Is that what we do? Do we think like the customer? Do we start with the customer and move backwards? And if your boss is on the call, you can give them a grade and say, you know what, this is how it works. Amazon, A+, think like the customer. Keep going, Julie, we're good. I'm talking fast. What do? We educate, we inform, we engage, we persuade. The days of a one-page ROP ad to communicate to your customer, ladies and gentlemen, are gone. There's a complete combination of all your assets. If you want to educate them on something, engage them on a topic, engage them on Black Lives Matter, engage them on what's happening in the land. I can go on and on. This is the right initiative for your group to use. And we're going. Last one for me, I think.
Yep.
Okay. Build your prospecting list. Let's start with some simple questions. Which categories are doing well despite COVID? No? Write them down. You can answer them. I'm not going to give you the answers because there's got to be a little bit of homework. Which companies are doing well despite COVID? That's different. Which companies have stumbled during COVID? Which companies have stumbled during Black Lives Matter? Let me give you an example. Wells Fargo. They kind of need us. Okay, they kind of screwed up. They need our help to tell a story. Okay? Which companies, you heard Matt talk about the sponsored series, which companies are directly associated with the storefront? Which companies are indirectly associated? That is where you start. That is the most simplistic way to start your prospect list. Last thing on prospect list, when you get to the storefront, when you get there at the end, get 2 of them for each of the 10 categories, you have 20 prospects. Ms. Campbell, I think it's over to you.
It is. Actually, we're going to pass it over to Mr. Murphy. He's going to talk a little bit more about business categories. Jared, what are you seeing here in this slide from Burrell?
Yeah, thanks guys, and thanks Peter. I think the reality, as Julia mentioned, with the Burrell study, what we saw is confirmation of the categories that we're already working with on an advertising standpoint. I would say this is just like another confidence shot in the arm that some of our top advertising categories, that the leading, HVAC and home service providers, or financial services in the middle box. Some of the, biggest categories that we are continuing to work with right now are also showing growth in content marketing spend, meaning that we should be having the conversation with them about what their content marketing budgets look like in 2021 and going into 2022, and seeing if we can grow share of wallet through branded content by servicing these categories. This is a slightly different cut of it, but another kind of outcome of the Burrell study was just like, what are the categories that are, over-indexing, most likely to be utilizing content marketing? Again, as you go down it, you're going to say, okay, well, we work with the local and regional credit unions. We work with professional services like insurance or legal. We're, still helping as people are, things are opening back up. We're helping drive, butts and seat events around museums or zoos and things like that. This is just a good confirmation that these areas that we already work with are leveraging content marketing. I would just say get comfortable talking to your advertisers about what they're doing with their content marketing budgets and how your programs could fit. The only other way to look at this slide is that just because these are the most likely that are over-indexing, it doesn't mean that you should scrub someone out. I think a really great conversation when you're having business conversations from an account executive standpoint on any category is to ask them what they're doing with content marketing. If you Google, top CMO priorities in 2021, you're almost always going to see content marketing in that #1 or #2 spot. So it doesn't matter the business category. It's typically top of mind for a marketing director or CMO or decision maker. And there's a great opportunity for you to slot in and help them accomplish those goals. So the next handful of slides are kind of just a quick hit list of what we've seen working and some of the best practices that come out of the 3 years of the branded content project that Julia and team have been running. I get the exciting role of going through these. I'll tell you, also share a little bit of my own personal perspective. I think the reality is that we've spent, in my background, I said I spent the last 15 years driving digital advertising across traditional media companies. We've gotten really good at defending why, a car dealer should buy targeted email from a newspaper, or why a bank should buy programmatic from a TV station. And oftentimes the answer sounds something like, we have special sauce, or we have an in-house team, or we're local, or whatever that may be. And sometimes we win those budgets and sometimes we don't. But all of those reach extension, Facebook, Google, targeted email, anyone can do it, from the smallest little agency next door to the media companies across town. When it comes to branded content, and you'll hear me talk about this in some later slides, it is a unique and defensible opportunity because you're able to create the connection with your engaged audiences that you own and the brands that want to reach those audiences. As we go out with these programs, one of the most important things we recommend, and this is just a little sales tip and sales hack, when we sell branded content in local markets, we like to make it an event. We like to make it scarce. That gets call to action with your AEs and with your clients. So what that looks like, we'll roll out that Finances FYI series. And we'll go out and we'll talk to every credit union, every financial institution in an area, and we'll say, hey, we're launching some sponsor content series on June 1st. One of them is Finances FYI. It's going to focus on day-to-day finance tips and education for consumers in this market. We thought you'd be a good fit for the exclusive sponsorship opportunity. Can you meet here or here? Because we're announcing that launch date and because we're looking for an exclusive sponsor, we get really great meeting acceptance rate. We also get really great engagement from AEs because they want to get the sponsorship and that commission with their client. I referenced earlier that whole kind of unique value prop. When we sell sponsored content and branded content, and I know I'm using the word content a lot here, content is the vehicle to create that connection between your engaged audiences and your brands. Content is not what you're selling. What you are selling is a sponsorship and engagement with your own audiences and the brand that wants to reach them. That's what makes it unique. That's what makes it such a great opportunity for local media outlets. And I just would tell you, while content is a component of the program, it is just the vehicle to create that connection. You're not going to sell per pieces of content. You're going to sell sponsorship with your engaged, fraud-free, brand-safe audiences that brands want to reach. One other comment here is that, we talk a lot about owned and operated, and that's what makes this unique. I would just encourage you to make sure you're considering your entire owned audiences. So that's both, your digital owned audiences on your news site, .com. It also, frankly, is if, you're going to run traditional, running in print. And then lastly, the audiences you've built that are following you on Facebook, following you on Twitter, on Instagram, those are extensions of your owned audiences. That makes your program unique. It allows you to drive more value, more audience engagement, and more rate, frankly. So make sure to leverage all of your own properties. This is another just kind of sales tip and sales hack, also maybe setting expectations as Julia, Peter, and I collaborate on the rest of this presentation. When we look at who's right for a branded content program like this, we really are looking at people that are running awareness type programs today and are trying to drive engagement with their target audience in a specific community. It doesn't matter how big your community is, how big or small, the budget size and the audience size kind of scales proportionally. But what's most important is that we see a lot of success and a lot of engagement when a brand is already running awareness type campaigns. Think traditional media, they're all over country radio, they're running out of home signs or bus backs, they're in community events and sponsoring, booths or community activations. When we see people running awareness campaigns, we know they're a great prospect. We've spent the last 15 years, as I mentioned, selling cost per click and lead gen and website traffic. Continue to do that with the rest of your marketing services. But when you're selling these programs, make sure you're focused on awareness and engagement KPIs. And last, Julia will tell me because we'll go to the next slide, but this is just another really good kind of sales tip. When we go out and present these programs, and I think back to that Finances FYI example, when we meet with that marketing director of the regional credit union, we say, hey, it's really great. Thanks for taking the time to meet with us about Finances FYI. As I mentioned in my email, this is launching June 1st. It's going to provide local readers with everyday finance tips and advice. We expect a lot of engagement because we know our readers are looking for this kind of information. And oh, by the way, that exclusive sponsorship experience, I want to show you what it looks like. When you go out to show them, don't just pitch them the concept, create a mock-up and actually show them what their sponsorship and what their brand will look like on your site or on your properties and what that engagement will look like. That is the sale. When they can see this unique experience that they're going to own, they get really excited and it helps with the buy. I will tell you, we always create custom mock-ups for qualified opportunities. One last comment here, because I haven't thrown it out yet. This is also a great solution to bring to your agency partners. Agencies are constantly being challenged by their clients to come up with unique ways to stand out from the competition. If we think about some common categories for local news sites, we're still working with grocery, and it's really hard to get the avocados of one grocery store to stand out from the avocados of the other. But an exclusive sponsorship on your site where they can see their brand against healthy eating tips and recommendations and meal tips is a unique program. We typically see agencies get really excited because they bring this back to their client and they say, hey, we worked with the local news site and we came up with this really great idea. So they become heroes and bring out your idea. Oh, not the last one of my favorites. And I think there are a couple other now. Gross share of a target entire marketing budget. This is another cut and a couple comments on the prior slides. We talk a lot about advertising budgets. Those are those lead gen and those are those, cost per click budgets. I would just tell you that, when we look at those, content marketing is a top 1 or 2 priority for most brands. They're not just talking about advertising. They're using content marketing to build out their, their own authority and their own voice, and they're producing blogs and they're bringing on content specialists. You have an opportunity to go after content marketing budgets. You see at the bottom. You also, as Peter was mentioning, brands for the last year plus have been looking for ways to tell the story of how they're keeping their employees, how they're keeping their community safe, what they're doing, what precautions they're taking as the world starts to open back up. There's an awesome opportunity to partner in content marketing. We're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail in the coming slides. Sponsorship budgets is another just recommendation I'd make on this slide. When we talk to people right now, and I know in the community I live in Colorado, we're having the typical summer programs that would happen, the street fairs and the farmers markets, and some of those other community events have either been scaled back or eliminated altogether for this year. I would say talk to your brands about what they're doing with their sponsorship budgets in the back half of 2021. There might be an opportunity to cost shift some of those budgets into sponsorship programs on your sites and with sponsorship programs.
All right, we're going to double down on this cause, community, and purpose-driven marketing here. Point here. This is near and dear to my heart. It's something that I really see is coming from the content side. It really is the best mix of everything you guys do. The reason it's important is these are some numbers taken by IAB. This was earlier in COVID, but you see how the mission-based advertising rose 42%, and you see that cause-based marketing rose 41%. So this was really important through COVID, but it's continuing to stay important. And the reason why you guys are uniquely positioned to take advantage of this is something that we like to refer to as the three-legged stool. This is what local media organizations do best, right? This is what you guys do day in and day out. You provide information, education, entertainment for people where they want it, when they want it. You help businesses grow, which is why all of you guys are here, is to find new solutions for your advertisers. And the third leg of the stool is you guys speak for those who cannot speak for themselves, nonprofits, causes, communities. This cause marketing initiative and working with businesses to talk about what their purpose is, talk about how they're helping the community, and really kind of continue on with their mission and message, and being able to be the vessel for that is really important. This is what you guys already do best. This is why you're uniquely positioned to take advantage of cause marketing and corporate social responsibility efforts. So think about that as you're coming up with new ideas, new initiatives. Think about how you can turn them into a purpose-driven educational program, and talk about causes, talk about communities, talk about the nonprofits in your area. You guys are uniquely positioned to be able to take advantage of that and help people. All right, next homework assignment, Peter. So we're gonna get back to work. What is our advantage? So this next section here, we're gonna talk a little bit about what you guys have as your own advantage and really being able to use all your assets.
So one key point that you see on that slide there was assets, and we use that terminology a lot in the financial world. I strongly urge you, when you're doing your presentation, use the word assets, because you think of what you currently have, you do have a lot of them, right? You have print, you have digital, you have social, you have everything. Use the words assets, not everything else, right? So you've made a decision after listening to Julie, Jared, and Peter so far. You've decided that the company you're going to go after is the Matt and Matt International Bank. Okay, that's the company. What do you do? Okay, so we're going to get you ready. First thing you do is you're going to ask yourself, what do they currently do for content marketing? If they have an annual report, take a look at it. Okay? What messaging? You heard Jared said, and the number is 63% of companies have changed their messaging since March 2020. How have they changed their messaging? This is all the research you do to get it ready. What do the competitors do? And the other very important point, you have Jared and Julie and Peter on the call helping. You can always call us and go, hey, is there anything like the Matt and Matt International Bank in LA or in Miami? Is there anything they're doing that we can learn from? Very important in the research that you tap into us in branded content. Ladder. Let me run through that real quick. This is the running of the actual sales call. Alice, look them in the eye. Nothing new. Why do I always put that up? Because everybody laughs at me. As many sales calls as I've been on, you'd be shocked how many reps cannot look the customer in the eye. Don't look them in the eye. They don't trust you. Ask questions. The most important thing you can do is ask them questions that can challenge and provoke them. Let me give you an example. Here's our 4 or 5 questions I would absolutely ask every time on branded content. Number 1, which charities and causes do you and your organization endorse or subscribe to? Let me say that slowly. Which charities and causes do you and your organization subscribe and endorse? Very important. You'll get a sense of what they believe in. Number 2, how have you changed your messaging? Let them tell you what they did. Number 3, when people talk about your business today, April 2021, what do they say they like? It'll be a little bit different what they said they like in February 2020. And here's the tough one. It's a very important one you have to ask, and it's hard to ask. So I'm going to say it slowly to make sure you get it. So Matt and Matt, what would you like your legacy and the legacy of your business to be? Now I urge you, don't be a chicken. I can't say the S word. Don't be a chicken. Ask the question, because they'll look at you and go, ooh, never really thought of that. Or they'll answer you right away and you're home free. That's some of the key questions to ask to make sure you understand what they stand for, what they want to contribute to, what they believe in, what they want to do, and helps you with their messaging. All right, and we keep going. Back to the ladder. D stands for do not interrupt. The second D stands for do not change the subject. We're jumping around, you can tell. Why do I put that in there? Because you, although again, you're in the sales call. The minute you interrupt them and they want to talk about the fact that Roethlisberger's still there and you believe he should be gone and you change the subject and say we should get a new quarterback, you're done. Okay, you're done. Let them talk. The rule of thumb, even in branded content, as long as your customer is talking, you're going to get the business. As long as you're running your mouth, you will not get the business. Let them talk. E, empathize. Okay. Again, you'd be shocked how many people do not do that in a sales call. Or respond. Very important one. If you don't know the answer, say, you know what? That's above my pay grade. That's my smartest way of answering it. I'll get back to you tomorrow. Don't know the answer? Let me talk to Matt. I'll get the answer. Don't be like a large percentage of reps that lie and make up the answer. Remember, branded content, ladies and gentlemen, the ones that we've been working on for the last 6, 9, 12 months have been averaging 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like $12,000 per month on an annual contract. We are talking about a big chunk of change. Let's do it right. All right, keep going, Julia. Done with questioning. You've asked your tough questions. You know all about them. You know about Matt's kids. Here we go. Presentation time. For those who have heard me speak before, after listening, you've all heard about the Happy Meal, but let me explain Happy Meal again. Okay, let me explain it very carefully. I say to Matt and Matt on the call, Matt, and I happen to Mr. Miller, how old are your kids? Yeah, Matt, my kids are 5 and 6, 7 and 8. Favorite meal? Or they say there's somebody else, they have grandkids. Oh, Peter, that's easy, it's McDonald's. Favorite meal at McDonald's? Peter, that's easy, it's a Happy Meal. So I'm curious, Matt, listen to my voice slowing down. Do you know the origin of the Happy Meal? Most people go, have no clue. Let me explain. They took the 4 best products that kids love, bundled them together. You should hear that word bundle. And this is what they got. You got French fries, you got chicken nuggets, you got a drink, you got some fruit, and a toy for extra measure. Did you know, Mr. Matt, that if you separated all 4 of them out, the price to you would be double? Oh, I didn't know that. So what they successfully did is package all the assets of McDonald's for kids and put them in a bundle. Next step, you'd say to your customer, let me tell you, I have Happy Meal A for you, which includes a print component, digital component, social component, and event. That's X $1,000 a month. I have Happy Meal B for you, print component, digital, event, some social, and a few other things, some other assets, X $1,000 a month. That they will never forget you when you talk about the Happy Meal. Let me tell you, I've certain of my clients, they actually take the Happy Meal box in with them to make sure the customer remembers. Make sure they understand bundling. Again, the day of the one-page RFP solution, it's passé, it's long gone. We have way too many assets to offer only one option. Ms. Campbell, it's over to you.
All right, I hear there's a question out there, Jared, from Matt. I think if you want to speak to it.
Sure, absolutely. So Matt had asked in the chat, many media companies are selling native advertising. How would you differentiate native from what you're doing with the branded content project? I actually will respond in the chat so you guys have this, but just, I typically look at native advertising as display advertising that runs in editorial feed and typically clicks out to your advertiser site. So it's like a banner ad. What we're doing at the branded content project is we're creating unique series that provide weekly articles and insights that are informative, that are high quality, that align with what a reader would expect for a local news site. They're just coming out of a content marketing or a brand studio, and they're designed to engage specific audiences while having integrated sponsorship experiences. Like in short, it creates a sponsorship program for you to monetize your owned and operated audiences beyond just like native ad placements that click out.
Perfect. All right, well, guys, keep the questions coming. We'll keep an eye on it as we kind of plow into these last few slides here, and we have lots of time for questions too. But I want to focus a little bit here for a second on why it's so important to come up with new sponsorships and new opportunities. Jared touched on the the importance of bringing agencies new ideas. But we got some data to back this up. So this was another IAB study. It was during COVID, and they found that a lot of media companies are really creating content adjacencies and sponsorship opportunities during COVID that buyers can leverage, and a lot of them were creating entirely new from scratch content adjacencies So because of the crisis we've just been through in the last year, we realized that this is a need that the advertisers are looking for, and it's really something that the audiences are also wanting, and they're also desiring. So it's important you guys think about all the ideas we just shared with you. Think about going forward what you guys are already building in-house, and think about what can you bring new to the market. So what can you bring new to the advertisers? And the reason this is going to be incredibly important this summer is if anybody has listened to Burrell in the last few webinars he's hosted in the past, he is, and honestly, it's not just Burrell, it's a lot of different media companies out there that are explaining that advertising is going to explode this summer. There are going to be millions of messages out there all of a sudden when advertising comes roaring back in the coming months. So how are you going to help your advertisers cut through that clutter? How are you going to make sure that their message is the one that gets heard? Probably through a content vehicle, probably through something that's longer form, probably through something more like a sponsorship. So your guys are going to be uniquely positioned to help them get through the coming onslaught of all the messages that are going to be hitting everybody in rare form in the coming weeks. The other thing, and Jared touched on this a little bit with the native advertising question, but how can you help your clients become storytellers? We talk a lot about sponsorship. We talked a lot about different types of custom opportunities. But one thing that we really want to point out that's important here is something that we're starting to call the peanut butter and jelly plan. So how do you guys combine the best of sponsorship with the best of custom opportunities? Because that's really where we see the most effectiveness. It's really what we've seen work really well for different advertisers is you take the importance of a sponsorship opportunity, you combine it with something custom that really sends home the message of your advertiser. So those two things are really the 1-2 punch that you need to do. It's the peanut butter and jelly. So those have been the most effective campaigns we've seen are the ones that take on sponsorship plus custom opportunities for those clients. I'm going to hit on Jared here for a second and have him point out a couple. He's been running hundreds and hundreds of campaigns over the last few years with different advertisers. Jared, you always recommend combining the two different opportunities, right? Sponsorship and custom pieces.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason to do that, and then I'll give a real life example, but the reason to do that is that, there are brands out there in all market sizes that are producing really good content. The problem that brands have is distribution. Like outside of their existing Facebook followers, like how does someone actually end up on the brand /blog site? And really, how important is that? What we offer from local media is an opportunity to provide that massive megaphone and that massive reach with our engaged audiences. And massive is, relevant to any market size and any traffic you have. But the brand, but your readers don't want to read advertorial. And like I tell this to news sites, and I also tell this to brands. Like a reader comes onto my site and I trick them with some clickbaity headline and they land on an article and it's just advertorial. They kind of throw up all over that, they bail out, and it's not valuable for your readers, it's not valuable for your media organization, it's not valuable for the sponsor. What we found is that if you run a healthy living series that provides unique, informative, seasonal, topical recipe ideas and meal hacks to local consumers in your market, and it doesn't have editorial oversight from the brand, it's just truly recommended, chip dips for March Madness or chip dips for, Cinco de Mayo or something like that. That's how do you get your avocados to stand out? Well, in that, there might be some ads running around it for, the avocado special at that grocery store. So there's an ability for sponsors to sponsor around these sponsored content series because the content is engaging their target audience, but they don't own the editorial message. Full stop. They also might want to talk about why they're the best. So what we typically do is we run a series like Healthy Living where the brand doesn't own the content or the editorial narrative. They just know that they want to sponsor and deliver ads around content that engages their target audience. And then next to it, we run a series of recipes, which is the best chip dips to make this season or whatever it is, and it clicks to all the recipes on that grocery store. And you guys can produce that content. You guys could outsource it. You could have the branded content project produce it. But when you combine a sponsorship around a series and then custom articles that run adjacent to or as part of that series, you kind of check both boxes for the marketing leaders at those organizations, and we see a great 1-2 punch. That was probably way more than you wanted, Julia.
It was perfect, actually. It's exactly what we wanted. We're going to take a minute here too and talk about a few other success stories. So Peter, you've been working with different media companies through the Brand Content Project, and then outside of this, hit on a couple of success stories, some things we've seen that have really worked well for some of the publishers in the group and outside.
Well, one of the ones that comes to mind right away is during COVID was businesses helping businesses. Where there were feature stories on certain businesses that had money, they paid for all the advertising and wrote stories about the ones that needed. This was actually in Philadelphia. But I'll throw it, just to tease you, I'll throw out some companies that have bought into the branded content initiative. AARP is a big believer. And we've had 3 or 4 different markets, and they, again, 10 grand a month is chump change. The 3 most recent success stories, ARP, JP Morgan Chase, you all know that name, and Liberty Mutual. So again, I urge you, if you are a rep on this call, don't think small. Think about those big corporations, the Matt and Matt International Bank, that really want to get in and get their message out there. Whatever that message might be, we have the right vehicle for them. We have the right opportunity for them. And again, if you think about church and state, we can kill both birds with one stone.
Yeah, it's important that the suggestions and the ideas that Peter just gave you too, they were not huge organizations that landed Chase and ARP. They were actually smaller publishers. So this is something that we're seeing, you guys position your unique audience in the right way. You guys can bring in the JP Morgan Chase, you can bring in ARP, something we're seeing, across the country in different types of media. And Jared, you've seen a lot of success as well with home services clients. So it's a great opportunity to hit up maybe your HVAC guy, right?
It's the same thing, and I'll sound a little bit like a broken record, but it's tough to get will unclog your drain faster than the other guy will unclog your drain. So you see them constantly focus on service or what distinguishes them, like speed. And a sponsored content program is a great way to drive awareness and engagement with consumers in your market. And again, back to that 1-2 punch of a sponsored content series that might be sponsoring home tips and hacks for homeowners. It's engaging their target audience. It's putting their brand out in front of people that own homes in your community. And then you write a custom article with a specific recommendation or overview of a service that they're providing right now. It's a great 1-2 punch. We see a lot of engagement, a lot of success with home services. The other comment I'll make is while there might be 1,000 of them or 100 of them in your community, the top 10% are running traditional media and brand awareness campaigns. They're running on country radio, they're running on cable, on TV, and out of home. And those are the guys that are good to go after and sell these sponsored content programs to.
I see a few things in the chat. So I think it'd be a good time, to Matt or whoever can read the chat and see if there's any questions out there. And we have a few more slides. We want to talk about some opportunities you guys can get involved in and some training and some great things that are provided to the industry. But I want to see if there's any questions before we kind of plow through with more ideas and more suggestions for you guys.
Thanks, Julia. There was a few that came in kind of out there. Who are the current competitors you're going after? So who else is in this space already that newspapers would be selling against if these clients are already using a content marketing provider? I mean, is there anyone out there that's kind of already taking over the field, or is it completely open?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously other media companies that are getting into this and agencies, but remember what Jared said about your audience. So, even if there's other folks in town that may be selling something similar, or maybe the boutique content shop that's down the street is doing something around content, remember that you're not selling a piece of content, you're not selling an initiative to somebody. What you're selling is your audience, and you're finding the vehicle and the vessel to do that. Jared, I think you probably could weigh in a little bit there on that point too, is that, that yes, there may be competition, but who else are you seeing out there that's getting into the space? But again, just focus on your own audience, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the reality is that content marketing has been a focus for the last few years. And what has typically happened is that brands, when you ask them, hey, what's going on with their content marketing? How much of a priority is it? How's it going? What you'll typically hear is it's our top priority or one of our top 2 priorities, and then it will quickly be followed by all of the challenges they have. Most brands aren't set up internally to scale content marketing. It takes resources they don't have internally. It takes content marketing specialists and social specialists and editorial process and review, and it's very clunky for them. And typically, one of the reasons it's such a good fit for us on local media is that there is an inherent trust that we know how to put out quality content on a frequent basis. Now, I never mislead someone and tell them our editorial team is going to do, from a local news site, like my editorial team is going to produce this content. I always clarify, hey, this is going to come out of our content marketing group, whether that's in-house or outsourced, doesn't matter. But brands innately trust that a local media organization knows how to put out quality content kind of at scale. So you have that kind of in your back pocket. They've been buying this from agencies. They've been hiring people to do it internally. They've tried to do a mix of that over the last few years. But when you go to them and you can offer them content marketing that is both production and distribution, that's what's typically missing. The only distribution an agency can offer your local brand is buying it on Facebook or buying it programmatically. The reality is you can run it through your own channels. You're still going to charge them for that. There's stuff to buy that media, but you guys actually own that audience. It's a great win, and I don't know, I couldn't say enough about it being a silver bullet for the local news industry.
We had another question come in about analytics. So what kind of information is fed back to agencies, and what level should you share? Like, kind of,
great question.
Where's that sit?
Yeah, I would tell you that there are different approaches, and Julie mentioned that the branded content project has been going for 3 years. There's different approaches and different flavors and different points of view. I'll share mine, and it's not to say it's the only one. At the end of the day, if we're selling these programs on the value of our audience and the engagement we can create, then I believe we should price it and charge accordingly with awareness KPIs. So I always recommend selling on an impression basis when you're able to. Larger news sites, that's really easy. If you're smaller, that traffic and impressions might be so small it doesn't make sense to sell on a CPM. Then I flip to a share of voice and just give them 100% share of voice, and I put the price accordingly. But when we report back KPIs, I like to report on the reader journey KPIs. I'm going to show total awareness or exposure. If you're doing share of voice, you might want to present that slightly differently. But I'm going to do total awareness and exposure, and then I'm going to show engagement. I actually want to show that I delivered on my readers saying, yeah, I am interested in those home tips. And because it was served to local readers in Scranton, they're, by reading an article of, top 10 things to do to get your home ready for spring, they're like waving their hand and they're saying, yeah, I own a home in Scranton and I'm interested in this information. Therefore qualifying themselves as the target audience of a home services company in Scranton. So I always report on awareness and then engagement, which is like at what rate do they click into the content, and then how many articles do they view per session, or maybe time on content or some other engagement you do. These are not bottom of the funnel lead gen traffic driving programs like I mentioned. So I'm always cautious to show at what rate did they then click on an ad and go to the local news site's site. I present that information because I want to show the full reader journey KPI. I just would say, like, with caution, if an advertiser starts measuring you on how much traffic you drove with these programs, it's the wrong alignment. And typically that's an education need with your AEs first and your advertisers second.
If we have time for another question, Julia?
We do, yeah, keep rolling.
Came in, is asking, what kind of transparency do you need when doing these, when the client is involved in the content production and when pushing out through social media?
I'll jump on this one. I'll jump in quick, and Jared can kind of fill in too. Is like, you absolutely want to be as transparent as you possibly can. So full disclosures, make them clear. No question, you want to make sure that you are listing this content is sponsored by and who that is. It's not a bad thing for the advertiser. They get their name out there one more time. The readers are also fine with this. We've done it. We've seen a ton of research showing that the readers are okay understanding that this is a sponsored piece or provided by an advertiser if you deliver on what that content is promised. So if they come and they get the information they needed, they're educated, they are informed, they are engaged, and it was delivered in the way that they thought it would be, no one is going to push back on the fact that it's sponsored. So keep that in mind. It's not a bad thing for the advertiser. They get their name out there one more time, but you absolutely want to be as clear as possible with that disclosure. Jared, I think you probably have to fill in some other details too.
No, I mean, everything Julie said, just a little bit more kind of doubling down on that. Brands need to deliver value first. In the cluttered marketing space, running a couple more interruptive banner ads is not necessarily going to move the needle for them. They need to establish value with audiences that would consider their service or their products. And a great way to do that is to provide readers who are on a local news site looking for information with quality advice and recommendation that they're perceived to have an authority with. That home services client providing home tips, that credit union providing finance tips. And we will list those as presented by and sponsored by all day long, and we will see great engagement. Readers do not mind, as long as when they click on that article and it opens up and it delivers unique informative value, they don't mind that it's sponsored. Sometimes it beats out our editorial operation. However, if they open it up and it's nothing but an advertorial, I would tell you, caution. Like, the readers are going to be frustrated, your news team is going to be frustrated, and then frankly the sponsors will be frustrated because the click out on that and the engagement on that's going to really hurt. So I think you need to balance kind of, are you delivering value, and if so, no problem listing it as sponsored. You're going to list the other stuff as sponsored for sure. It just won't get as much engagement. I typically tell my brands that, hey, this branded piece will not perform as well as our sponsored pieces. We still will get out this message about your product or your service.
And we had a question. I think this is probably more Peter, but you guys kind of sorted between you here. They were asking, for your sales team, do you need a specialist, or is it something all salespeople should be selling? So is it a four-legged call? Is it in-house, or is everyone trained up to be selling branded content?
You know, man, that's actually a tough one. I will always say it'd be great having a specialist, because when you specialize, great things happen. But again, depending on the size of your sales force, there is no reason why everybody couldn't sell it. However, I would say if you've only been selling for 6 to 9 to 12 months, you probably won't understand the intricacies of some of the things Jared answered. So I would use that as caution. Okay? But again, if you can find, I mean, the amount of money we have on the table, tell you what, it's worth giving it a thought. Jared, Julia, we may disagree on this, by the way, just in case you know. No.
Well, no, the only thing I would tell you is that something kind of interesting that I didn't expect at first when we started to do this back in Dallas in 2017, and then, you know, since then, a lot of other properties since. I will tell you, your legacy traditional reps will actually typically grab onto this much quicker than your pure digital natives that you hired within the last 12 months. The reality is that, you know, the comfort dating back to that long relationship with your brand and with your property and selling the value of your audience is something they've been doing for years and years and years. And I find that my digital experts who could jump into an AdWords account and could like completely break apart why it's performing or underperforming or overperforming, they get caught up and they always want to bring this back to lead gen and to website traffic. So I'll tell you, I sometimes have a harder time with my digital enthusiasts, my digital experts, than I do with the traditional media reps that have been comfortable selling on the value of awareness in your audience for years and years and years. So I would tell you, sometimes I was surprised that some of those traditional reps will grab these programs and run with them much quicker.
And then we had another question come rolling in here. As media companies that sell disruptive banner ads, how do we sell against that with an advertiser?
I mean, listen, I've been responsible for that banner P&L for a long time. So I have to be careful not to bite the hand that feeds you. In the appropriate setting, I'll tell an advertiser, let's be honest, like no reader comes to my site to click on a banner ad. Now, we want to put banners in front of people that are the right audience and are likely to want to pursue that offer. But you know, I think the training of that with your AEs is actually more important, because I think you can handle that case by case with your advertisers. It's not to say we're going to throw banners out with the bathwater. I typically present it as incremental or as something that we do in conjunction with. And we'll oftentimes see that. If we roll out a sponsored content program like Finances FYI, what we'll see is they add 250,000 or 500,000 banner impressions as a part of the program. So I would just say, like, it's not exclusively selling against the banner, but I do want to highlight why these programs are almost like opt-in versus the disruptive nature of the banner ad. And I know I dodged that question somewhat because I think it's tough for us, right? Banners have paid for us, banners have been driving revenue for us for a long time. And certainly, like, we're seeing it harder and harder to get premium CPMs. We're seeing those budgets decline, but we don't want to just throw them out. So I think you kind of have to walk that fine line.
So we had another question come in, and let me preface that with, sorry any publishers on the call, but an ad manager was asking, how do I sell my publisher on branded content?
Stick Julie on him.
Wow, I know. It's like, yeah, I'd love to talk. I love talking to the content folks and explaining exactly why this is a different way of advertising, a way that they are going to actually embrace. This is not the scary thing that everyone thinks it is. And honestly, like, I mean, Peter's not wrong. Like, let's get on a call and let's talk through, what the concerns are and why this isn't something that is top of mind. Because for me, this is so much more aligned with what the editorial department and what your publisher is probably looking for. This is a way to engage the audience, right? This is providing them with information, education, and content. So this is, to me, better than traditional advertising. So this isn't a scary thing where we're going to, go over to the dark side and we're selling off our entire news department. This is something where we're doing what we all do best, right? Which is providing information to our audiences. So I think that we probably should have that conversation. I'd also tell them we've got a fabulous training program I'm going to talk about in a second here that's built for the editorial team as well as the sales team. So we have two different tracks. So that's another great place to start. I think give them background, give them the reason why this is going to work better.
Julie, if you want to go through these last few slides, and if folks have questions, feel free to place them in chat while we're going through these last few slides here.
It was like the last person just teed us right up, right? Because we're going to get right into education and training. So the one thing that Jared, Peter, and I always want to focus on is we want to provide you guys with a ton of ideas, but we also want to end with the solutions to those ideas. So one thing I want everyone on this call, if you guys are interested in this, we want to get you involved. So the Branded Content Project is out there to help everybody in the industry. We have education and training provided by over 50 experts. We've got workshops, we've got peer-to-peer training, we've got monthly calls where we get together and hear what's working in the industry, and we've got branded content innovation missions. I just mentioned the training curriculum. We have a branded badge training certificate. Matt got his, he mentioned it at the top of the call. This is an easy video tutorial that is available to everybody. We want to make sure you guys get your branded badge certification. We get you guys trained up. It's an easy one. You grab an hour and a cup of coffee, and you can be certified in branded content. We want to make sure we give you guys the access and the information you need to be successful. And then the storefront. Jared, touch on this a little bit because we want to make sure we get you guys into the storefront as well. Matt mentioned the products earlier in the call, but this is available to you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you're looking at is a screenshot of the Branded Content Project storefront. Think of this as the app store for branded content. This is the 10 programs. There's a couple more of them down below, but the 10 programs that are available through the Branded Content Project storefront are all designed to engage specific audiences already on local news sites, audiences that are of interest to advertisers already working with local news sites. And these programs are incredibly turnkey. All the series have the same elements. It's a weekly article, topical, seasonal, designed to provide reader benefit and be original and authentic, but coming from a content marketing team with built-in integrated CTAs for a sponsor of active aging, or that retirement community, or that assisted living facility. I won't go down all the categories with just a few minutes left, but you could quickly see it. Women's wellness is a great sponsor program for a regional health system. Car care, you can sell to a multi-rooftop service chain or a big, dealer franchise that really focuses on service. But each one of these programs have weekly engaging, unique content and then built-in integrated sponsored experiences to help you go out and monetize your owned and operated audiences with sponsored content. The only other thing that you see here is like assets and sales kits. When I say turnkey, I don't mean just running these programs. I mean, we give you an email prospect template that you can email all of those assisted living and facilities across your region and say, hey, we're launching active aging on this and this date. Here's who it's going to focus on. Unique sponsorship is going to include this. Would love to meet with you. So you can provide these templates to your AEs and get them out prospecting immediately. And then there's also sales decks. There's a customizable sales deck. You can pick it up and add your branding. You can take the slides and put them into your template. But we really give you kind of the full sales process to get you trained, get you selling and closing deals and generating revenue and profit with branded content. The one thing you need to do is get access to the storefront, right, Julia?
That's exactly right. And so next up, for anybody who wants to get any kind of information from us, is just to email me. That's the easy one, right? And Matt obviously know where we live too, so they can help you find us if you need to. But just so you guys write my email address down. We are here to help you guys. Peter, Jared, and I are doing training all the time. We got a full team in place. We are here to help you build a content strategy for your organization. And if you already have one, we're going to help you grow even more revenue. So just let us know how we can help. Matt, that's about all we have, unless there's other questions out there. Just try to find us as soon as you can.
I think you guys thoroughly answered all of the questions we had at this point. So we don't have any more in the queue at this point.
Perfect. All right. Well, guys, that's thank you for allowing us to come in and chat with all of you guys today.
Yeah, thank you. That was really great. I'll close it out here. The first thing that I would say is I feel just a little bad for the marketing directors at AARP, Liberty Mutual, and JP Morgan Chase. They are about to get called on by every newspaper in the state of Pennsylvania. That is going to happen. But thank you, guys. That was a very good session, very enjoyable. Peter, since you felt compelled to share that you gave me a B+,
I knew you were going to say that.
I just thought that I would offer that I'm still trying to figure out how that you worked in Happy Meal into the ladder acronym. I'm still trying to put her into the acronym ladder. Still trying to put that together, but I'm sure I'll come up with that answer.
Yeah, I'm sure you get a very creative answer later on tonight about 6:30, Matt.
Yes. All right. Guys, we will wrap up here. The next two sessions in the Advertising Symposium are practices from around the world, who is winning the revenue war and why. That is tomorrow at 11 a.m. And then on Wednesday at 10 a.m., best practices for optimizing your programmatic campaigns. So if you have those in fulfillment at your newspaper and they haven't signed up, please let them know about that session. Anyway, if you've not registered for the sessions and would like to attend, please contact the PNA by emailing events@panewsmedia.org or visiting the PNA website's contact page. So thanks for everything, everyone. We will sign off and see you again tomorrow.
Good afternoon, everybody. Be safe.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank you.